Welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony. Good to see you, Eric.
Once again, Into the Breach, brought to you with the good graces of Manhattan Neighborhood Network and EVT Educational Productions. So we'll take a look at what's trending, as they used to say, or still say.
Right.
We don't believe in trends, we believe in what's really happening. What should be happening when this airs on the following Monday should be a continuation of Donald Trump. There will be, I am hoping, a big brouhaha about somebody's medical records being made public, unbeknownst to him. There are some serious things going on across the Atlantic that I haven't heard anything about that we'll talk about, and a number of other pertinent stories, including the Confederate flag. So where do you want to jump in, Bob?
Well, it seems like it's been a busy week, and you've been busy collecting all of the breaking items today, including, as we tape today, which is a few days ahead of the broadcast, the signing of the proclamation by the governor of South Carolina that the Confederate flag will finally come down from the State House grounds in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah, interestingly enough, there was a very, very contentious and long into the night debate in that South Carolina House, despite the fact that the Senate had whizzed through something like 36-3, 37-3, saying yes, that flag must come down. The other chamber in Columbia, South Carolina, there seemed to be at least one recalcitrant individual who kept introducing amendment after amendment. So it was not going to be a easy and simple process whatsoever.
No, and I watched some of it, and some people just wanted to get on the record. They wanted to get their voices into the historical document of this debate, so they stood up and had something to say about it. But you're right, it wound deep into the night with the amendments, with I guess I don't want to call it abusing the legislative process, but stalling techniques that you can do in the process. And we knew it was going to be a long debate anyway, but it wound into the night until the final vote.
Yeah, after 1:30 in the morning, I believe, before they actually got that second vote to come through. What I saw, interestingly enough, because I didn't watch the actual debate, but one of the anchors on MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, actually, that's who it was.
Okay.
She ran an excerpt of one of those South Carolinian state legislatures, and it was a female Republican. And I have to tell you, that was one of the most emotional speeches I've seen on any subject at any time.
I think I know who you mean, but go ahead.
Yes, and if you want to pull up her name so our viewers will know who she is, please do, because this woman was impassioned. She was on target, and what truly impressed me was the fact that she said, I know all about heritage and South Carolinian heritage. And the line that got me was, I am a descendant of Jefferson Davis.
Right.
And I just cannot see us add insult to injury to Senator Clemente and his widow about not voting to bring this flag down once and for all. And she was just riveting with her emotion and her sense of justice for the family and justice for South Carolinians by bringing the flag down.
And we might as well name her. I pulled
Yes,
it up. This is from the website Think Progress. A Republican, her name is Representative Jenny Horn. And it says, sometimes shouting and fighting back tears, revealed during her speech that she was the descendant of Jefferson Davis, the president, of course, of the Confederate States of America, and during the Civil War. But she urged the members of the South Carolina House who were considering moves that delay or obstruct the flag's removal to look beyond themselves. That's what she said, and you're right. It was I heard pieces of it, and it was very impassioned. And when she said Jefferson Davis, I was like,
yes,
wow, that drives in the point.
I said, if anybody has Confederate heritage.
Yes.
This woman does. And if she can call for that flag to come down, the rest of those people should shut their mouths, turn tail, and run. So she was successful, I think, in her plea. As we know now, when this airs, that flag would have been down for an entire weekend. It's scheduled to come down at 10 a.m. on the Friday before this program airs.
And given her history, given her, the fact that she is a descendant, I'm sure she has a Confederate flag in her house and Confederate memorabilia all over the place. But she understands the point. It is not the place of that flag's place is not at the State House. In these United States of America. She drove in the point very well, and I only heard a snippet, but it was enough to make me turn and look at the radio.
I commend her for her sense of wanting to see right done, her sense of empathy for Clementa's widow and his children, and the fact that she felt it was in the best interest of the state of South Carolina, heritage, whatever, for that flag to come down, and she made her point quite eloquently.
And I'll just read what she told the Washington Post, because they quote it here. If what I did changed the course of the debate, and I do believe it did, it needed to be done. And that makes the point.
I am a firm believer that what she did and what she said had major effect on the debate. So a related entity that I'm not sure we should bring up, but yes, we should, just because.
Okay.
Right after, this brouhaha about the Confederate flag coming down has spread across the South. There's a thing about taking the Confederate emblem out of the Mississippi state flag, and there are a number of Mississippians with that same heritage calling for it to be removed, and of course that battle has now begun, and so that's another unfolding of how do we get rid of this Confederate flag symbol across the South. So that's an ongoing story. But the pushback right after those 9 individuals were slain in the church, Emmanuel Episcopal Church in Charleston, I remember one volunteer fireman getting fired because he said something about this young man had done a service to whatever cause he thought he had done a service to. So it was somewhere out in Texas, I believe. But I saw some headlines right after that there were a series of church bombings, black church bombings or fires that took place.
There were fires.
So I went back and tried to, because that sort of popped up and then died down. And the last entry that came up when I tried to see what was the latest developments, there was on a site called heavy.com, posted on July 1st, so by the time this airs, that'll be like 10 days, or a little over 10 days, that talked about the ATF said it was the lead agency investigating the fires at Briar Creek Road Baptist Church and God's Power Church of Christ, where arson is a possible cause. It is also investigating fires at Fruitland Presbyterian Church in Memphis, Tennessee, Greater Miracle Temple Apostolic Holiness Church in Tallahassee, Florida, and Glover Grove Baptist Church in South Carolina. It also sent agents to the Mount Zion AME church fire in Greeleyville, South Carolina. The Washington Post reported that arson is suspected in 3 of the 6 fires.
In 3 of the 6?
The Post reports that arson is also a possible cause at the College Hill Seventh-day Adventist in Knoxville, Tennessee, to the list where hay bales and a church van were burned on June 21st. The ATF has not said if it is involved in that investigation. So some of these fires may be arson, some of them may have been lightning strikes, as there were a rash of reports saying, oh no arson, just weather. Everybody's quickly downplaying arson. However, I need to probe a little more, because it's 10 days since, 3 suspected arson, 3 maybe not.
And I agree. And the reporting has been muddled because I think one was a lightning strike and one was arson, but it was a case of an internal dispute between two people within the church.
Within the church. It may not be outside agitators.
Right.
It may not be racially motivated.
But some of those have no other logical cause.
Yeah, you need to be doing some follow-up. And I was, kind of surprised that there wasn't more follow-up to that story. So we'll try to do the follow-up for you, folks.
No, I agree. It has been under the radar. I haven't seen any further reporting on that.
And speaking of under the radar, that's a good segue.
Sure.
I love that because, as you know, we try to take a look at what's being covered well, bad, or indifferent, or what's not being covered at all. And while I was researching stuff on South Carolina, while I was researching stuff on a number of other stories, including Donald Trump and why he's getting the play he's getting, I came across a Reuters dateline, and we're talking about Reuters July 9th, which is like the middle of last week when we were airing this. But the byline is Abuja, Nigeria, and the headlines: Nigerian troops arrest mastermind of Jos and Zaria bombings. The lead is Nigerian troops have arrested the mastermind of bombings in the central cities of Jos and Zaria this week that killed at least 69 people, the defense ministry said on Thursday. No one has taken responsibility for the attacks, but they bore the hallmarks of Islamist sect Boko Haram, which has been waging a 6-year insurgency in Africa's largest oil producer, namely Nigeria. Quote, the highly placed terrorist, this is the leader, was arrested with 2 others who were in his company. One of them was, however, shot while trying to escape, the defense ministry said. The suspect was picked up at a checkpoint in the northeast city of Gombe on the fringes of Boko Haram's northeast stronghold, it added. This is the key paragraph. Last week, more than 200 people died in a string of attacks in Africa's most populous nation, piling pressure on new President Muhammadu Buhari, who is working with neighboring states to quell the insurgency. Now, I don't need to read the rest of the story.
Right. But
what I'm really aghast at is 200 people got killed. I guess, according to a related story that Reuters covers, Boko Haram kills nearly 248 hours of Nigeria's slaughter, and I have not seen, heard, read, or seen anything in any of our media about any of this.
Now, you emailed me that item earlier this week, and same thing. I had not heard anything about that, and I was wondering if I had missed it, if I was not paying attention, but there was really nothing else there other than these snippets of these Reuters reports. And it's unfortunately goes back to one American is equal to so many people overseas, in terms of reporting. And I don't know how that escaped us.
I'm at a loss for why 200 people could have been slaughtered. As Reuters has in this related story headline, Boko Haram kills nearly 248 hours of Nigeria's slaughter. And that's a slaughter.
Yes, it is.
And you would think that would be resonating on news outlets around the globe. But I don't want to raise my voice, but last week there were 28 people killed in a Tunisian resort,
right,
and it made headlines on every major newspaper, every television station, every whatever. There was a beheading in France at a factory that echoed the Charlie Hebdo killings, hit every major. You got 200 people dead in Nigeria. We don't see a peep, what? This is not really acceptable, folks. This is crazy.
I'm not going to defend that, but I can give you one reason, and it's not a good one. Social media. There were actual cell phone video of some of the shooters in action in Tunisia. There was actually some tweets and some other, not Instagrams, but other information coming out over social media. I'm not defending that lack of reporting on that, but sometimes we depend too much on other forms of reporting, and we don't pick up on things we have evidence about.
It's interesting because even when I was a foreign assignment editor way back many years ago, there were a number of international wire services like Reuters, like Agence France Presse,
Sure.
a whole
And
even UPI
and UPI
AP,
was much stronger back
those
then.
folk would have people in these areas who would file these stories, and guess what? The mainstream media would actually pick up these stories and run with them.
Right.
Reuters still has people in these areas. Reuters is still an international news agency, still covering these stories. They got 5 related stories on this Nigerian slaughter.
Right.
But nobody else is picking up on it. Why? I mean, I'm not blaming social media for this lack of coverage. I'm blaming lack of care about giving full news coverage globally when people need to get this stuff.
But I'm sort of blaming it on the news editors we have today who do lean too much on social media and don't pick up on Reuters and some of the old school veterans. So,
All right. See, what I'll do, I'll go back to the fact that when I was a foreign assignment editor, there was only one like me.
Okay.
Okay? And in 2015, there are none like me.
Right.
And so what's
Very good
happening
point.
is there are, like me, I mean African American. There are people in these newsrooms who don't care about these other areas of the globe.
Correct.
I had to push hard back in the 70s and the 80s to get folks to look at Africa and the Mideast and other parts of the globe that was not Northern Europe. And evidently, you get 29 Europeans or Brits killed. Yeah, it's gonna make it all over the globe.
Right.
I'm just telling you from experience.
Sure.
This is a mindset of, yeah, that's okay, that's happening, but we don't care. That's what that is. And you can see that by the fact that it doesn't show up on any of these news feeds. It doesn't show up on any of these news services. It doesn't show up on, unless I miss something in my...
No, I would agree with you that this is a victim of the lack of diversity in the newsroom. Okay. This is one of the victims.
All right, that is just... I can't believe that that many people got killed in the most populous... the most...
It's
the
not an
biggest
insignificant
oil-producing
nation.
company.
Yes.
This is just bizarre. All right, let me get off this soapbox. But it's about news coverage and bad news coverage and the lack of news coverage. But the segue about bad news coverage or bad news practices, let's bring it back home to a sports-related story, but it's not really a sports-related story
Not
the way
at this
we're going to
point.
cover it,
Right.
and the way I'm hoping the rest of the media will pick up on it. But Jason Pierre-Paul,
Yes.
New York Giants.
Yes.
What is he?
He's a defender.
Defensive end or what? Line. Major star.
Yes.
Okay. Let me shortcut. Major star makes big time.
Could be a franchise player,
that's correct.
which means he's one of the stalwarts.
And did something stupid with some fireworks over the 4th of July weekend and ended up having to have a finger amputated.
Correct.
Tell us what transpired after that, Bob,
Right.
because this is just the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Now, I've been tracking the news coverage as a football fan and as a journalist, just to see what would come out of this. I mean, we don't have to dwell on the point that it was really dumb to be handling fireworks
we just touched
with
on
a
that.
$60 million contract.
Yes, stupidity. But
You're right. So let's get off of that right
let's
away.
go to the real news story.
Right. So all through the weekend, all through the week, this story has been percolating, and we haven't gotten any facts. Jason, a couple of Giants officials went down to see him. I guess he's in Florida, and they were turned away at the hospital. He didn't want to see them. They didn't get up to see him in his room, and they came back to New York knowing nothing more than they went coming back. Then we get this tweet from this reporter, and I'm going to have to name him because I don't think I'm going to have to make sure I get the right guy. Adam Schefter, I believe, is his name. And what he does, Adam Schefter, he's a NFL insider for ESPN.
So he's an ESPN guy.
And he gets a scoop. And I hear on a few of the news outlets that, oh my goodness, Jason Pierre-Paul now has to have his finger, right index, I believe, amputated on account of this accident. So how did they find that out? He got the scoop by A, gaining access to his Jason Pierre-Paul's medical records, and B, tweeting a photo of the medical record that lists the amputation. I'm not even going to say questionable journalism, bad journalism. I'll just go out and say that because it's a private record.
You have just invaded someone's privacy.
Right.
You did not get his permission to do this. You did not get an interview with him and ask him what happened, what transpired. you went through some back door contact to get your scoop, and it turns out to be someone's private medical records. I do believe, you remember when we predicted there would be lawsuits about those misidentified bombers in Boston?
Right, the ones that post listed on the front page.
Prediction. Here comes the Media Watch prediction. There will be lawsuits pertaining to Jason Pierre-Paul's medical records being tweeted out in a public forum without his permission. And if somebody doesn't lose their job at that hospital, and somebody doesn't go to jail protecting the source of their story.
Now,
sometimes things happen like that. People say, well, I can't tell my source because I'm a journalist and I have integrity. You don't have any integrity when you publish someone's medical records without their permission.
Now, I think the best, a journalist's best friend is a better editor. And sometimes, this is something that could have been discussed, could have been...
A good editor would say, did you get permission for this?
Right.
Otherwise, we might get sued.
Now, I don't know if ESPN actually ran a photo of the image on ESPN, because he tweeted this.
He tweeted this on his own.
Well, no, actually,
or
this might
from his ESPN account.
This might be an ESPN. Well, it's his name, so it might be a personal.
Yeah, you don't know where that came from. We're not going to put anything on ESPN yet.
No, but
we
as,
put it on this reporter.
As part of his job as a reporter for ESPN, he broke the story.
Yes,
he had the scoop on ESPN. Yes. So they're up to their neck in this.
They certainly are, but he could have had that scoop by saying, "Guess what, folks? I have learned on good authority that he's had to have his index finger amputated."
Right.
And that's a scoop.
Right.
Without publishing his medical records. Okay.
And all the editor would have need to have seen is the medical records
to know that he's correct.
Right.
So I'm telling you, somebody's head's going to have to roll for this. Either the really, well, let me put it this way. People with money can almost get away with anything, so maybe nobody's head will roll. But I know were I the aggrieved party, I'd be filing suit against somebody. That's just me as an individual who likes to protect my own privacy. So I presume other people feel the same way.
I'm sure something bad will come out of this all the way around.
What's that phrase? Nothing good can come from this. I forget whose quote that is.
Right, but this was a bad. As a journalist, I defend good journalism when you get a good scoop and when you actually beat the other reporters and you have the story. This was unnecessary. This is a medical record. I would be terribly upset if it was mine.
He could easily say the information without publishing. And it's still a scoop.
And as a former newspaper reporter, I've done that. I've had information which I wasn't able to publish, but was able to defend myself to my city editor that I did have the story.
Here it is.
Here it is, and we can defend it. So if they come after us, we'll have this.
We're good.
So this was unnecessary, Mr. Schefter.
That's a major fault.
Congrats on the scoop, but that was bad.
Major. I mean, you're putting yourself at risk. You're putting your organization at risk. And it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that.
And I'm just going to mention real quick, talking about under the radar. We had a lot of reporting about Jason Pierre-Paul's missing finger, and there was actually another football player who lost two. And I think I just lost the story.
Still continued his career?
No, the same weekend. Someone else, another NFL player, lost two fingers.
Wow.
I mean, and his story isn't reaching the newspapers.
And hopefully his medical records didn't get suborned and published.
But he came out and said the two fingers were
gone. Yeah.
So, but anyway, we have about 4 minutes left.
Well, in the 4 minutes that's left, let's do a continuation of another analysis of bad journalism, because I came back from a little sojourn to see all kinds of stuff, and people upset about coverage on Donald Trump and the follow-up to Donald Trump.
Right.
And for approximately 10 days after Trump bloviated about all those crazy things we talked about on the last Media Watch, none of the Republican menagerie that I called a menagerie had distanced themselves from him in any significant way. But I believe previous weekend when this show airs, not this weekend, the previous weekend,
Yes.
they finally came out and said he does not speak for us or whatever in no uncertain terms. But what angered a whole bunch of folk, some of our resource people, was the fact that Donald Trump was given this major platform, not just by Fox. Fox loves Donald Trump. They basically didn't even say he said bad things, did bad things. They pretty much said, oh, he was just speaking his mind.
Right.
As if speaking his mind was not insulting an entire nation and maligning a whole group of people. He was just speaking his mind. That's the Fox spin on Donald Trump initially. I don't know if they backtrack or not.
Right.
But Trump has not backtracked.
No.
But he's been on this soapbox. And I saw an example of seriously bad interviewing technique, not just bad journalism, but bad interviewing technique with some young lady named Katie Tour or something for NBC.
MSNBC, yes.
But she actually, according to the lower third that I saw, works for NBC, but they ran a bit of it on MSNBC.
Yeah, she actually worked locally too, but go ahead.
Okay, but anyway, it was an appalling interview. It wasn't even an interview. It was a Donald Trump platform where Donald Trump got up and spewed more crazy things and attacked Jeb Bush, attacked Hillary Clinton, attacked the journalist herself.
Yes.
he just attacked, and she just sat there and let him do this with no pushback, no counterattack, any lie, any crazy. At one point, she actually did try to say, well, why do you make your tires in China if you're trying to bring jobs back? And his answer was, I make my tires in China because I'm a good businessman. And she just let that lay.
Right. It appeared to me she had a list of questions which she stuck to and couldn't get off of the linearity of the questions.
Oh no, you can't have a list of questions when somebody is using you as a punching bag
No, I
using
agree.
your interview as a platform to just spew crazy nonsense.
I agree that he jumped on her heavily. We have about a minute left, but
I understand he did the same thing to Don
Lemon.
Don Lemon, but we already told our viewers Don Lemon is a lightweight who can't carry weight in a paper bag, so that doesn't surprise me.
Right, but I was appalled, just as appalled at the interview as you, and into the interviewing technique. And Katie Tur, she's done some good reporting, but she really let this one get away from her. Well,
that's an example.
Well,
I don't know.
I agree.
I don't know the lady, and even though I'm on a show called Media Watch, I rely on a lot of our resource people to watch these other people, because when I try to watch them, I lose my patience and I have to go away.
We have about 25 seconds.
I'm being honest about it, folk, but I do try to stay up on stuff. But this has been Media Watch. I'm Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony. This has been a good discussion.
Yeah, it has. We'll catch you the next time. We thank MNN. We thank EVT Educational Productions. And yes, see you next time.